You're on the air. What's your name? Where are you calling from?
Oh, yes. This is Dave from Scranton. Again, thank you for taking my call. I just have a quick question. Emma, MR crew, and along with Sam, you guys have been in this field for a long time. And the simple question is, whether you agree or not with these people, how many in this YouTube sphere or this media sphere overall, how many do you think are actual grifters or became grifters over time? Besides Jimmy Dore and his team of yes men and copycats. I mean, what percentage? Usually I'm pretty good at picking out the people who just simply pander. But overall, like, what do you think the percentage is? And, how do you, what could you say to like convince people like what these people who are actual grifters and panderers do, to like show people that they are grifters? Thank you for the call.
I would say anyone who's making lots of money doing politics on YouTube is a grifter. Because there's no money in actually being a leftist on YouTube, I'll tell you that. But to more seriously answer your question, I mean, obviously, if anyone all of a sudden changed their politics, like we've seen from various people, I mean, again, I don't know how into their politics that they originally espoused they were to begin with, but, the Dave Rubins, the Tim Pools, the Jimmy Dores. I mean, these are all people who clearly, they started as something completely antithetical to what they are now espousing. And, everyone grows, but, you develop more in that specific ideology that you apparently were fighting so hard for to begin with. You don't completely flip and do a 180.
Yeah, but I want to caution people against going on heresy hunts too much in this time. I think that there is a lot of stupidity out there. I think people are changeable. I think there's a lot of bad incentives going on. But I think ultimately, like, it is what it is. Like, I think the Jimmy Dore stuff, like, I don't think people actually watch that debate and think Jimmy came out on top.
Yeah.
And I think over the course of a time period, this stuff kind of proves itself out. So I think being a little bit more Christ-like, Emma. I think everyone. So there's two models of dialogue. This comes from my grad school learning. There's the Platonic and the basically the Christ-like, right? Where Platonic is you're doing dialogues and Messianic is you're just spreading a message, but you're not saying like this isn't for you. That's all that they do. They say they want to draw lines against, say, like the nurses union or DSA or like all these people they think are cucks. Let them do that because they're gonna whittle and dissolve into like petty bickering fast enough. And meanwhile, the people that were actually like doing stuff will remain trying to do it.
Well, obviously, I want to follow in the steps of Christ, given our shared plight. But. But yeah, I also think I forget if this was just in my head or you mentioned it, but like talking about the amount of money people do make, it's probably not the best argument, right? Because it's more just about the content of what people are saying. Say somebody gets successful and they hit it big with Patreon subscribers. I mean, I think sometimes that can create a bad incentive, but sometimes with the right person, it may not. So Jimmy's house is like not as relevant as is his like completely
disempowering arguments
and disempowering arguments, and his clear mental issues, allegedly. Anyway,
but I think
I did bring up Jimmy Dore's house during my debate with the Combo Couch, and only because they argued that Jimmy Dore is the face of working class America. Like they literally said that. And I was like, listen, I don't think you could. I mean, are people in his line of work working class? Sure. But I don't know if I'd go as far as saying anyone who is an entertainer is the face of working class America. I mean, there's obviously jobs that people connect to working class America more, that were more suited to being the face of.
It's interesting too that they only see one type of person as working class, right?
Yes.
They see it as a white guy from, with a cop with like
that's a dick.
Who's like this fetishized version of a working class person who looks like a white guy from a certain background. And they don't really have interest in representing working class people of different backgrounds.
I can't speak specifically to YouTube because I don't watch a lot of YouTube, except for Slate Aspire related videos. But I think, it's kind of a mistake, or like maybe just like a grouping mistake, to pretend as though like being on YouTube or being just necessarily an independent media is insulating from the same kind of pressures that control and like influence the people who work in regular media. I think where people are finding themselves now dissatisfied with a lot of YouTube is that it's been around long enough for people to build these kinds of audiences and to gain platforms, only to find them more or less moving towards some of the same pro status quo messaging that you would get in the New York Times or any other sort of mainstream outlet. So, I mean, for me, I don't know how we can sort of change any specific like slice of media without changing the underlying sort of incentive structure, where it's just, it's easier to make money by reaffirming people's, underlying beliefs than it is to challenge them in any real comprehensive way. People are always going to be more inclined towards looking for audiences that are already, built in, like appealing to far right podcasts or far right article writers audiences, because they already exist as a bucket of people to appeal to, versus trying to appeal to people who don't already exist in the I'm paying money to online service type of population. And so, we just have to be more critical, I think, of the entire structure and incentive structure of media. And just, at the end of the day, not every person who writes an article or puts up a video is a journalist, and not every particular publication that has $1 million behind it is legitimate. Just like not every particular, YouTube video that has 1 million views and people saying, wow, this is a great, really stunning expose on like the way things work, is worthwhile to watch. Sometimes it really does come down to like informing yourself in a way that's a little bit, more judicious than looking for what the next hot thing is, people are talking about what the next hot YouTube video is. And honestly, I don't know how to recommend people do that in America when so much of our internet space is controlled in order to reinforce these messages and, neo-colonial, neoliberal like hegemony, right? Under various types of like veneers or guises. I don't know, like Matt says, like, so part of what I find weird about debate culture is that it exists in this space where people are just allowed to like call themselves a socialist or whatever. And it's just like, but you're not. Like, you're just not by any real metric. And it's impossible to have this conversation when we are so radically divorced in terms of like what we think how the world works and how it functions.
Right. I totally agree with that, all of that.
Folks, there's more of what you've just saw where that came from. That's if you hit the subscribe and like button. Thank you. Really, thank you.